Okay. I've started, and we're going to get started on this presentation. And I will let our presenter introduce himself in just a moment, but thank you all for being here for another session, a virtual orientation session for our new graduate students in the School of Education. We have the director of the Office of Intercultural Student Engagement. That's the title, correct?
Okay. One of my titles, yes.
I know you have actually like what, 3 or 4. So I'll actually let you take over and continue your introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself and your office and what you're going to talk to us about today.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alyssa.
You're welcome.
So really, Alyssa will share her screen in a second, and a PowerPoint will come up. But today we're talking about graduate success, right? And specifically at Albany. So I'll preface this by saying, before I go into who I am, saying that anywhere you go, so if you have colleagues who did their undergrad with you and they're in grad school somewhere, please share this information with them. Right? One of the things that, and if they're not in the School of Education, still please share it with them. It's not, I wouldn't say any of this information only applies to the University at Albany. And so give me a click. Listen, it's you know what? I shouldn't even ask you to give me a click, because I should have been able to do that.
No, I'm clicking. I'm trying right now, and it's not.
Okay, so let me share.
There we go. Screen. I got it. I'm sorry. That was my fault.
And so we're going to do some dialogue, right? What you can expect is that we're going to have some dialogue today. So we're going to be talking to each other a little bit. I'm going to ask you to do some self-reflection, right? We're going to talk about the top tips and really the obstacles to your success while you're a grad student. And then we're going to do the first semester plan development, right? Like, how are we going to tackle this first semester, right? And then what I call is what you got, right? What you got. Ask me some questions. Hopefully, if any, it could be anything from food to school, right? To how you handle your academics. And I should be able to do that. Now, why do I believe that I'm qualified to do this kind of thing? Right, I have a master's degree. What do you know about academic success? Well, right? That's what I would be questioning. Well, I do have 26 years in the business, right? 27, I think, as of August. I myself am a faculty member at SOE Coble School. For 21 years, I've taught Africana Studies. I came into the work thinking I was going to pursue a PhD, right? And the program that I wanted my PhD in never developed here at the University of Albany. I didn't want to move to Temple, where the other top rated in the nation, and I have studies and higher education. So
you're cutting in just a little bit.
What do I do here at the university? This is
it's not right now. It's okay, but we just lost a little bit of what you said. So hopefully we're able to keep it.
So I've been able to see faculty. I've been able to see graduate scholars come in and out over the years, and so really this presentation is developed based on those experiences, the things that they did that led to us being successful. And that's why I say us, because your success is really, that's just, for me, that's my success. If any of you do not finish, I feel as if I failed. So there are people who did the things that helped us succeed in the past. There are also people who did things that were wrong. And so we've learned from both of those things. We're hoping that you learn from that, so you don't have to learn firsthand. Give me a click. Click. So I'm the director I'm the assistant at the University of Albany. I'm the assistant to the vice president for student affairs for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so in that responsibility, I oversee all diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Division of Student Affairs. I'm like the chief diversity officer for the Division of Student Affairs. That means anything that happens outside of the classroom related to social justice falls under my purview. in that responsibility, I'm also the founding director of Intercultural Student Engagement. And this presentation is coming from that lens, right? It's coming from a social justice lens. Our mission really is to make sure that everyone who comes to the University at Albany feels as if they have a family at the University at Albany and feels as if they're connected to the community here, right? Give me a click. You'll all receive a copy of this presentation. Intercultural student engagement, though, is part of a larger umbrella organization called the Great Dane Union. Now, this is the flow chart. It may seem a little confusing, right? Because I said intercultural student engagement is under the Great Dane Union, but I work in the vice president's office, right? So the Great Dane Union is really 3 offices: Intercultural Student Engagement, which is under my direction; Campus Center Management, right, which is under Carla Jaime Benitez management; and then Student Activities, Orientation, that sort of stuff. That's Pamela Alexander. You'll hear about different spaces that we have on campus. There's a multicultural resource center, there's an interfaith center, there's a women's resource center, and there's the gender and sexuality, women's resource center, multicultural resource center, and interfaith center. And then we have a peer educators program here. So those are really offices that are designed to do 2 things. One, help you learn a little bit more about your identity or the identity of others. And 2, to really push the envelope in terms of advocating for marginalized groups. How does this relate to you? As a graduate student, we want you to connect, right? We want you to connect to each other at your level, but also connect to faculty who have backgrounds similar to yours and collegiates who have backgrounds similar to yours who haven't gotten to your level yet. A little bit more about that as we move forward. So this is the Great Dane Union. So if you hear the term, this is where this presentation is particularly not for your friends, right? If you hear someone say the campus center, they're talking about a building. If you hear someone say Great Dane Union, they're talking about the same building. It's the campus center. Now that sounds confusing for some, but the Great Dane Union really isn't the building. It's the offices within the building and how we work as a unit. But all the members of the Great Dane Union are in the campus center. So you might hear someone say, go to the campus center, and you'll go to the campus center. You'll hear someone say, go to the Great Dane Union, you should still head to the campus center. By a show of hands, how many of you are very familiar with the University at Albany campus? Okay. By a show of hands, how many of you will be on the University at Albany campus over the next year?
I'm doing completely online because of where I locate.
Okay.
So
that's fine. And
I'd love to come visit and see and check it out.
And we'd love you to come visit. And so the deal is, I'm not saying that to it's just I want to make sure I tailor what I'm talking about to what your experience is going to be, right? And I'm talking about walking in the campus center and you're not there, then that would kind of be weird. All right, give me a click. Okay, and so intercultural student engagement is managed by myself. You see me, but really the most important people that you need to speak to when you're a graduate student, if you're connecting to an office, whether it's virtually or in person, is the office manager, right? An office manager has much more information than any director or vice president. Right, so make your connections. I also tell people, and you should have learned this as undergrads or even in your office spaces, that get to know the custodial staff. Get to know the people who are mostly invisible, because they're particularly people who have a lot of information and they're more than willing to share it with you, but most people don't ask them anything. Give me a click. Intercultural student engagement has these units that I talked about: the Gender and Sexuality Resource Center and the Women's Resource Center. They're in the campus center, which is, they're in the campus center. The Gender and Sexuality Resource Center is on the 2nd floor, and the Women's Resource Center is on the 1st floor. Give me a click. We have the Multicultural Resource Center, and we have the Interfaith Center. Albany Alvarez Pena runs the Multicultural and Center and Interfaith Center. But another important piece of Albany's responsibilities has to do with intergroup outreach. So as graduate students, you should not expect that Albany's going to send you an email saying, hey, come and get involved. But Albany's responsibilities are to help graduate scholars feel more connected to the campus. Right? Give me another click. And we're going to get off of my office and get into the meat of this presentation. And then we have a charge peer educator program. I put this out because you're educators, and you might want, perhaps while you're in grad school, you might want to get involved with training additional peer educators. As scholars in the School of Education, this is also important to your professional development. I am certified in intergroup dialogue, the Michigan model, if you're familiar with dialogue. NCBI, which is the National Coalition Building Institute, is probably the most successful coalition building social justice model in the country. And then we also use ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League training on campus. So if you have not been trained in either of those, you get involved with our program and actually get $1,500 worth of social justice training as a trainer, right? You could learn to be a trainer. Most people pay $500 to get these certifications, and you could get involved with us and get it for free. And then go on out to wherever you are in the nation. And perhaps even if you're doing something on the side, you could be doing social justice work as a profession. People are paid to do that, obviously. It's worthy of pay. Give me a click. And then we're going to get. So when I say closing the achievement, when I talk about your success here, the first thing you need to know is at the University of Albany, there's no achievement gap. There's no achievement gap. The national average for graduation rate, 54.8%. UAlbany is 66%. European heritage students graduated 62% nationally. We graduated 64% here at the University of Albany. Asian heritage students, 63.2% nationally. At UAlbany, 70%. African heritage students, nationally 38%, at UAlbany 76%, and Latinx heritage students nationally 45.8%, at UAlbany 66%. Now this is your undergraduate cohort. Many of them will be your colleagues in your school. The reason why scholars do so well here at the University of Albany in this way is because they form families and they connect to our community. So we expect the same thing from you. You're coming into an environment, we're in the hush hush, but we are serious. Come in and they want to graduate. They're also going to want to know what you did to be so successful. Give me a click. Right, and so the first thing you're going to want to do as a graduate scholar is cultivate a relationship. So I'm going to first go down here, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about how you cultivated relationships as undergrads, because you were successful in that. Yes, give me a nod. If it was a yes, give me a reaction, something. You were successful. You're here now. And so now you have to, for some of you who didn't just graduate, you're going to have to think back, right, to how you were successful. So cultivating relationships with the faculty is important. And you're particularly cultivating that relationship because you're looking for advising and mentoring. You can take a picture of some of these, but we're going to send you this whole presentation. You're also looking for supervisory relationships. Why do you want to find supervisors? Because they can give you assistantships, right? Fellowships you don't have to work for, right? So it's an assistantship, so it's an opportunity to make money while you're also getting practicum experiences, right? So you're now working for the department. When I was in grad school, I worked for the Department of Africana Studies. I was an advisor. And so it gave me an opportunity to have some experience in the field. And then your peer relationships. So you're going to have your cohort. That's an important relationship. Some people stop right there. They spend their whole graduate school experience hanging out with 5 people in their cohort, right? I want you to get a campus-wide group of peers as well. There are graduate scholars that are not in the School of Education. There are graduate scholars that are not in your cohort, right? And so you want to make those campus-wide connections. And then there's the community, right? So don't forget that your peers are within the community. They're your age. They might not even be your peers. They might be your elders, but they have vital information that will help you to your success. Now, Simeon's been on campus, but if we was in Kentucky, he might be looking to find out where he can get a haircut, right? Or where certain restaurants are. But when you're on campus, Simeon, it might be something that I would know, right?
No, that's true.
Right? In terms of somebody in the community who could connect you to some piece of information that you're looking for. Right? And so the community is a vital piece of they're a vital academic resource as well. And then cultivating your relationships through your affinity groups. How many of you were active in any kind of student group when you were undergrad? Put up a reaction, speak to me. I told you we having a dialogue, talk to me, right? Tell me something. If you were involved in something, and somebody tell me what you were involved in.
I was the president of our adult student organization at SUNY Brockport.
Nice. And we don't have one of those here, I don't think.
Okay.
And so a way to get connected might be to say, well, why don't we start that?
Oh, cool.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I like to say, I mean, I'll tell you full disclosure, I can't support the name of the group. Right? I can't, because I don't know no kids in college, right? So the point is, I would, you might say the elder adult, or older adult, or senior, I don't like certain words either, but you might say older adult because the undergrads would go, they hate stuff like that. They feel like whenever they hear adult student group, they're being called kids. So if I get in on you, if I jump in with you on that, I'm gonna catch a beat down. All right. So remember that those group-based identities, anything you did as an undergrad, I'm urging you to try to find a little piece of your time to connect to that. And don't worry, we're gonna speak a little bit more about time as we move forward. Give me another click. Right. And so your working assistantship experience, right? So why would I mentioned cultivating relationships so you could get an assistantship. It's going to be important for you to learn the culture of the school, but also you got to learn the culture of your department. And you're going to want to learn the culture of the local area. So you might not want to be, but you're going to make sure that you know each of them. So if you understand, maybe you was an undergrad at University at Albany, right? And so you're comfortable there. But how familiar are you with the School of Education? You're new to the department, I assume, right? And even if you're not new to the department, you're new to the graduate department, right? So the first few weeks that are coming up, you're going to want to, speak to people who are second years, third years. Speak to Alyssa, right? And ask her questions about how things get done in the department, right? What's the protocol? If I have a problem, who should I speak to? Not who's in the presentation, but who's the person I really should speak to, because they're the person that actually will help me get this situation resolved, right? Managing your time, right? The work, your work and assistantship is great, but you're gonna want to manage your time. And so I have, and Alyssa's going to share it with you, I have a time management worksheet. And the worksheet has 168 hours on it. Why are there 168 hours on the worksheet, y'all? Somebody tell me, why would I have a time management worksheet with 168 hours on it?
Is that how many hours in a week?
All right. I like the words in that sentence, but the punctuation was a problem, right? And so you had a question mark at the end of that sentence. And so the second thing, I'm gonna just put this is free. I'm not charging for this one. When you are speaking to faculty, right? Make a statement, right? Make a statement. 168 hours in a week, right? And then during the time, it took me a while, right? So maybe you could just put 24 times, 7 and see if that's accurate. But the point is, be confident in your response. You were right. There's 160, you're bright, obviously, you're a graduate scholar, right? There's 168 hours in a week. I just ran down all of these things that y'all should be doing. And if you're like me, at some point you said, when am I gonna have time to do all of this stuff? Maybe I have home stuff going on. So here's what I want you to do with the time management worksheet. You can write this down, but it's being recorded. The first thing you're gonna do is write on a blank sheet of paper your priorities, right? For some of you, Eric, you're still teaching this year, right? So that's a priority, right? You ain't gonna do nothing if you lose that job, right? So, and if you're like my son, you're probably working somewhere between 60 to 90 hours doing the work, right? My son teaches mathematics in LA, right? And so you're gonna wanna set aside, first and foremost, the hours connected to your priorities. If it's your work, you got a child that you have to take care of, you have a doctor's situation, you got a medical situation, whatever your priorities are that are constant, like it's scheduled, you could put it on a schedule, you're going to put those things first on your time management worksheet. Then you're going to fill, hopefully academics is in there, but for every credit you're taking, you're going to want to set aside a minimum of 2 hours academic work per credit for that class. So if you're taking a class with 3 credits, you need to set aside 6 additional hours during that week to do purely academic work for that class. Now, what does that include? Those 6 hours will include, so let me just back up a little bit. So that means if you're taking 15 credits, that 15 credits takes 45 hours of your time. So as long as you set aside the 45 hours, you're good. So I'm gonna use a person who might, let's say if someone's working 50 hours a week, right? I'm gonna try to meet in the middle. If you're working 50 hours a week and you're taking 15 credits, how many of you are taking, tell me how many credits y'all are taking. How many credits you taking, Eric?
I'm taking 3 this semester.
You're taking 3, Dina?
3.
3, Simeon?
I believe I'm taking 3 as well.
Okay, all right, so this is good. This is good. And Stacy, how about you?
I'll be taking 9.
Okay, so Stacy's like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Right? Point is, everybody's like, man, I wish I could be taking 9. Right? And so that's how I feel all the time. So if you're taking 3, you're gonna set aside. Now here's the thing, I was gonna say this, Pete, right? At 15, if you're taking 15 credits, or you're taking 9, let's start with 9. You're taking 9, which is a full load. You're gonna want to set aside a minimum of 2 hours per credit, right? So that's another 18, and adds up to 27 hours you're setting aside. But my suggestion is 3 to 4. Right? If you're taking like 9, 6, 3 credits, I'm suggesting that if you can find a way to do it, put 3 hours per credit, right? Right? Now, here's what that does for you. If you taking 3 credits and you set aside 12 hours a week to do work for those 3 credits, you're going to master that material. But more importantly, you're not going to be worried about when you're going to have time to do your schoolwork. You're going to have that on a schedule. You're going to know, you know what? Just like you go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to say, hey, it's Saturday at 12. I got to go to work. Your work is your academic stuff, right? And so you're going to, once you put it on a schedule, it becomes just as if it's your work schedule for the week. But what else are you gonna have on there? If you got 27, and I'm gonna use you, Stacy. I'm not gonna use you, but I'm gonna use you as an example here. That if you're setting aside, let's just say the 18 plus the 3 plus the 9 hours you're in class, you're setting aside 36 hours where you say, I'm going to do purely academic work. You're gonna now still have 132 hours left in your week. Now, look at those 132 hours. How many of you sleep more than 7 hours a night? Matter of fact, what's the maximum you would all like? Somebody tell me what's the maximum amount of sleep they would like to get. If you could get your full night's rest tonight so that you're well rested tomorrow, how many hours you need? How many
8.
hours you want? 8? Who
Yeah.
else?
I go for 8.
Everybody saying 8. Eric said 9.
8 to 9, yeah.
Alyssa, what's yours? Alyssa's
8
like
to 9 would be fantastic.
All right. So let's go with this 9, right? And so if you got 9 times 7, that's 63. We already know you set aside, that's 63 plus a 40 out, let's say 50 hours, that's 113, right? You set aside 50 hours for your full-time job if you have one. You set aside 63 hours so that you're gonna be a lazy bum sleeping 9 hours every day, right? And now you have your academics, and I said you're gonna set aside at max for Stacy 36. Right, so now 113 plus that 36, that's 149 hours. You slept the day away. You've done all of your academic work. You've worked your job. And you're telling me you're still not at 168 yet? There is time to do everything that you want to do and to do it at a stellar rate within your work week. We just want you to manage it. Sound good? Sound good? We're gonna make sure you get this chart, right? Sometimes I see students say, oh my God, I didn't realize there's so much time in a week, right? The problem isn't really even time management, it's time prioritization. And I think I'm gonna probably have to change the name of this sheet, right? And I always tell people to write their priorities down. And that when you're listing those priorities, it'll make sure that you're doing those things first and you're doing it as if it's a job, because when you prioritize it, it is. The thing I want you not to do, right, is compare yourself to your peers. I'm not saying I'm gonna give you some things you should do and some things you should not do. Don't compare yourself to your peers. You're incomparable, right? You know how they say they're incomparable. Natalie Cole, I'm aging myself, but whatever. Right? Listen, don't be laughing. Right? When they say incomparable, you all are incomparable. People make a big mistake of comparing themselves to their peers. Somebody taking more credit, somebody's taking less credit, somebody finished already, somebody's ABD, and at your pace, and that's how you're gonna do your work at the best possible level. Give me a click. We're in that time. It seems as if every time it comes up and says my internet is unstable, I'm gonna pause a little bit. So hopefully, right? And so we're gonna want you to practice some self-care, right? And so you hear this a lot, and some people think that sounds so selfish. You're gonna tell me, you basically telling me to take care of yourself, right? And so I just got 4 quick tips about it, right? One, I really believe what Audre Lorde stated, right? Caring for yourself is not self-indulgence. It's self-preservation, and it's an act of political warfare, right? It is literally politically, you're telling yourself that you're worthy of that service to yourself. And so self-care, I try to practice what I preach, but I'm always trying to serve others, right? But, it's hard, especially for people in fields like ours. They're all interested in service. And it's hard to service yourself. And so I want you to think about visual and verbal self-presentations, right? And so So what do I mean here? That visually, what are you seeing for yourself? What is a relaxing space for you? Right? Um, is it music? Is it, what pictures do you need on the wall? You would surprise yourself with how many scholars I've seen their living areas and it looks like a prison, right? There's nothing on the wall. It's like they just got the calendar up there or something, right? And so what's visually there? What are you presenting to yourself? Verbally, what are you saying about yourself? Right? Oh man, I'm always late. Oh, I know I'm gonna be late. Oh man, I always struggle with this type of class. Statistics. Right? What are you saying there? But also, what are you saying outside of here? Right? Are your words about yourself positive? Are you putting yourself down because you might not be able to take care of your family in the way that you would like to? Right? Is there someone around you who doesn't believe in you, is telling you that, it's way too late to be doing that, or you ain't got that's over. We did that when we was younger, or you're not gonna get no more money by doing that. Right? There's a lot of negative messages that come out. And so you're gonna want to think about, if bad enough, society's gonna try to beat you up. Don't beat yourself up. Family and community. You heard me say it earlier. Last year, I kind of didn't talk about it until I got to this point, right? But it was so important to me over the last 16 months, particularly, that I know those who formed families and connected to communities, the university, they did well during COVID. They didn't do great. Nobody did great. There's some people who had the COVID come up. Yes, there's some people who, we call it traumatic growth. Have any of you heard of it before? Right? It's trauma-informed growth, that we know that people have trauma, they have traumatic experiences, and there's something negative that happens related to trauma. But now there's a whole school of research about the things that the benefits that we receive as a result of going through trauma. So think of me as a person who grew up in the South Bronx, homeless most of the time. My mother had 10 children and she raised us together. So we grew up in extreme poverty in the South Bronx. By the time I got to college, I was way more astute in terms of how to get things done than any of my peers. Their parents had done everything for them, right? Like I went out in the streets when I was 5 years old. My mother said, baby, you and Wayne was 10. I got to figure out a way to bring home some food tonight. Right? We were elder boys in a family of 10, right? And so that trauma, right, can lead to growth, right? But also we have to pay attention to how it hurts us. Mental health. Pay attention to your mental health. If there's it's not something that I know what society does to people who say they're going to see someone. Like, people might treat you funny, but you want to pay attention to your feelings. Not just how you're doing academically, but how you do mentally, right? And last but certainly not least, strategizing now, right? Preparing now is going to impact your habits later, right? So start saying, what is my strategy? What's your 20-year plan? Raise your hand if you have a 20-year plan. A 20-year plan. I'm 54. I got a 20-year plan, right? You should update it. I started my 20-year plan when I first started working at the University of Albany. I wrote just what I wanted to have where I wanted to be in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And then I just update it every year. I look at it. The good thing was my first 20-year plan, I completed it in 12 years. Right? I reached my 20-year goal in 12 years, and then I started a new one, right? And so strategy now is going to impact your habits later, because your habits are formed from your behaviors, right? If you do something repetitively, it becomes a habit, right? And so if you strategize, you start saying, hey, this is my strategy, right? This is my play. So let me run the play. And then when you're running a play, you're practicing these habits, you're practicing these skills, and then it's becoming habits. Give me a click. We'll go a little quick, I'm sorry. Right? And so you want to develop your professional identity. You're taking care of yourself. You're developing your professional identity. What's your brand? Right? What's your brand? You know, Simeon Incorporated, Stacy Incorporated, Eric E Incorporated, Dina Incorporated, right? Establish and grow your network. Are you in fraternities and sororities? If not, do you know somebody in them? Get connected to these people. Higher education associations. Publish and present. Now, write something. Y'all all got opinions. I'm sure everybody in your family, I know they always got something to say. Write it down. Well, write it down, right? Take advantage of professional development opportunities. There's going to be look, everybody's going to be throwing an opportunity away. It doesn't feel like that because some people, sometimes we got our head down, but people are throwing opportunities your way. I just threw one that's related to training. I know people who only do diversity training. That's what they do all year long for a living, right? And I just threw an opportunity your way. People will do that all the time. Pay attention to them. Be on the lookout for it. In fact, if you have a journal, and my journal is outside, I was going to have this meeting from outside, and it started thundering. I came inside with my laptop, and all my book pack is outside soaking wet. But in my journal, right, I might write down if someone says something about professional development opportunity, write it down in your journal. You might not remember it right now because you got a practicum coming up or an exam coming up. But you can look in your journal for what you wrote yesterday and then have that reminder. Give me a click. Financial decisions. Strategize in this area too, right? Do you have a budget? How many of you have a budget? Raise your hand for grad school, your grad school budget. You figured it out, right? If you don't have that, even though it's 3 credits, you're starting in the process, you're taking 3 credits at a time, it's never too little or too much, right? In terms of, well, if you got too much going on, you really got to follow your budget, right? Understand your offer letter. How many you have an offer letter? Understand it, right? Read that thing. Don't just take it now. Yay! Show it to your friends. Have a couple of drinks, and then it's in the bottom of your drawer. Read it carefully. Understand how much money you're getting. How much money you're going to have to pay if you're taking 3 credits. Maybe your job is paying for it, right? Make sure you understand how you're going to be paying because someone's going to pay. Make sure you understand how you're going to pay for that. Personal finances. Write out, this is not the time to run up your debt, right? So find out, what outside, issues that you might have, outside debts that you might have, non-related to academics, and then connect that to what you're doing in academic world. They're all part of you and your brand, and this is your business, right? And so make sure that you're connecting those things. Look out for insurance and hidden costs, right? University of Albany, has, there's tuition. They'll tell you tuition. Maybe if you're living on campus, maybe room and board. But there's also fees. Although some you opt out of, you might want to opt out of. Some you might want to keep, but you won't know if you're not reading through all of those. When talking about financial decisions and conferencing, I always say there's lots of opportunities to go to conferences for free, right? So you should not be paying for conferences. However, there are some conferences where you have to pay if you want to go. And so set aside some money for that, right? Set aside, if it's your budget. I can't look in anybody's pockets, but set aside some money potentially for if I wanted to go to a conference. And then last but not least, there's ways to buy books. There's ways to buy books that could make you broke. There's ways to buy books that could make you rich, right? I mean, the point is, set aside money for your books, but also do your best to get those items for free if you can. The job search, there is a website on campus called Handshake. If you're not familiar with it, go to my involvement Look on the left-hand side, and it should have a link to Handshake. Connect to Handshake, sign in, because there might be assistantships, graduate assistantships, and other opportunities for you there to help your financial situation be a little easier. Give me a click. So I think, let me see how much time. So 3:21. So I ran through the end of that piece kind of fast. And now it's the point where I want you to ask me some questions, right? I talked about getting your brand, do a quick run. Yeah, so I talked about, so look at that. So this is the time management calendar. You know, you look at it, it goes from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning, right? But from 1 to 3, that's a 3-hour block. You could always leave on. Oh, I can't zoom it out. Can you zoom it in a little bit? Go to the, show me the time. Go to, so the time column is showing. All right, so now scroll down, all the way down right here. So if you look here, you'll see that from 1 to 3 a.m., I kind of have a slot there. And I have that slot there because I actually do work from 1 to 3 a.m. Right? I'm up at 1 to 3 a.m. Now 3 to 8 a.m. Right? This particular, you're literally looking at a time schedule that I built for me. Right? From 3 to 8 a.m., I'm saying that I'm going to sleep because I need 5 hours sleep. Right? So I got to put that in here somewhere. So I got 3 to 8. You're going to go in here and you're going to have 11 to 8 or whatever, right? Right? And so you'll do that yourself. But if you, so I want you to see that, and don't think I'm telling you that you got to have something in there, right? For me, that's sleep. Now you scroll back up, every hour you're going to put things in. But if you look at Tuesday, you see how I have a little bar in there. You can modify this document, right? And it's just a simple Word document. It's nothing special. But put in there that full, you know, whatever class you're taking. You're going to want to put your meals in here. You're going to want to put when you take a shower. And hopefully you have that in here at least once a day. Right? Right? You're going to want to, you know, put all of that in here, right? Lunch, dinner, breakfast, grooming time. I woke up the first week, and this is how you use this tool. The first week, you're going to fill this thing out based on projected time you're going to spend. So you're going to fill it out the first time, the first week of school. Don't fill it out before that. First week of school, what you're going to be doing each of these minutes. Y'all got me? Y'all got me there? Now your head, so I'm a visual learner, right? Yeah, so now I know y'all got me, right? So you're going to fill in that. What you're going to do the second week is just do your regular thing. You're not going to, you can look at that if you want, but you just do whatever you do on Monday, and you're going to have a blank sheet, and you're going to write in exactly what you really did on that Monday, that Tuesday, that Wednesday, that Thursday. Projected calendar, you can hold it in your pocket, you can reference it, but you're really going to be writing on the second blank calendar what you really did. You're going to take on the beginning of your third week, right? You had on the beginning of your second week, because it wasn't a full week. You just wrote what you're going to do next week. Then you're going to follow your first week and see what you actually do. You're going to compare your projected calendar with what you really did. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? You're just comparing the two. Call it science, right? And so you're going to compare the two, and then you're going to have an honest conversation with yourself.